Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar series here at LiveRoute. Today's topic will be Office 365. We will discuss and do a summary about what Office 365 means to you in terms of adopting cloud solutions. And for your information, this session is being recorded and it will be posted on the LiveRoute website as well as our YouTube channel once it is complete. Feel free to post any questions or queries that you might have in the instant messaging section. And for now, all of your microphones will be on mute for the remainder of this session. At the end, there will be a poll, a survey, so I would recommend please that you fill that out at the very end of the session. This will be approximately 1 hour long, depending on how quickly we go through the slides. So thank you once again for joining us. My name is Lonnie, and we're going to be discussing Office 365. We'll talk about what this service can provide for you in your organization. We'll talk about also some of the changes or new enhancements that have been included in the service over the past few months. And we'll also talk about the different identity models, the way that you can authenticate into the service, which is a very common topic and a question posed to us by basically all customers who are very concerned about the user experience. So a quick introduction to LiveRoute. We are Microsoft's top cloud partner, and in fact we were Microsoft's partner to launch Office 365 when it became available in the region in 2011 at GITEX. Since then, we have successfully migrated over 100 customers into Office 365. We have a very dedicated local team here in the UAE. Obviously, we have all of the top Microsoft cloud certifications. Apart from being a gold partner, we are what's called Cloud Accelerator, Cloud Deployment Partner. And for Azure, which is Microsoft's infrastructure as a service and platform as a service or platform, we are Azure Circle, which is also the highest certification available there. So we are happy to address any of your questions, concerns, if you're looking to understand how cloud can help your organization, including doing things like having a cloud workshop to your management, to make them understand what are the benefits of cloud, or doing things like total cost of ownership studies. We can do these types of consultations for your organization. So today we're talking about Office 365, and the question is, why is Office 365 relevant in today's day and age? And obviously there is a big trend taking place in our work habits today, which means that people are becoming more demanding. Our employees have a lot of different devices that they bring themselves. Everybody has gone out and bought their own mobile phones, their own tablets. They like using their own laptops, etc. And they're expecting much more from the organizations that they work for. So they expect to be more mobile, to have greater choice, to use all of the more modern tools that they've grown accustomed to using on the web. So whether that be social networking type of tools, communications tools, as well as all of the latest productivity tools like available from Office. So the trends in the marketplace obviously are, how do we work better together? How can I access all of my information from wherever I happen to be? And for obviously the organizations and enterprises today, they're looking to get more value out of their investments, do more with less, and make it simpler to administer. We're not talking about islands of information of the past or different information systems which did not talk to each other and were in their own verticals. Now we're talking about systems that can share information, make it easier to work, and allow us to work from anywhere and on any device. And that's where Office 365 comes in. So Office 365, in a summary, is Microsoft's cloud productivity platform. It's hosted by Microsoft, available worldwide, and provides businesses the ability to use all of Microsoft's top productivity tools in a subscription package. And the advantages of that are many. So obviously you are no longer having to spend a huge capital expenditure on all of the Microsoft server stack that you would normally and traditionally have had to purchase. Also, you can avoid having to purchase all of the server infrastructure, networking, disk storage that you would normally have to invest in to put the exact same sort of solution together on premise. The other advantage is that this service is constantly up to date. So as a subscriber to Office 365, you are automatically given the latest versions of all of the software, whether that is a major version change or minor updates. And Microsoft commits to making updates every 90 days. So you will start to see, and I will be mentioning over the course of this presentation, all of the improvements that Microsoft is constantly making to the platform, and there have been many. In fact, if you want to keep track on seeing what are the improvements that are being made to this platform, you can go to blogs.office.com and you can see all of the improvements that are constantly being publicized by Microsoft on their website. Obviously, another attractive reason and benefit to use Office 365 is the ability to better collaborate with your coworkers, whether that be through document sharing, through using enterprise social networking tools, or using unified communications tools so that you can do things like video conferencing or sending instant messages between your coworkers, so that even if somebody is busy on a phone call or in a meeting, you can still communicate with that person. For the IT person, it means that you have less to worry about from a management and administration point of view. You no longer have to worry about those support contracts for your servers. You don't have to worry about running out of disk space. And the day-to-day administration can be done large in part through web consoles, although you still have the power, if you need to drop down to a command line using PowerShell if you need to get at more advanced features. So definitely from the IT perspective, you're not losing control in any regards. You still have all of the same features that you would normally be used to. So what is Office 365 impact on the market today? If you look at the slide that I have just put forward, more than 60% of the Fortune 500 companies have adopted it. The adoption has been incredibly fast, and in fact, Office 365 today is Microsoft's leading business unit. It's a $1 billion plus business unit, and 1 in 4, as you can see there, of enterprise customers are actually running on Office 365. Very big names, as you can see on this slide, whether you talk about Coca-Cola, Starbucks, McDonald's, Toyota, etc. All of these companies are seeing the benefit of moving to this cloud model, and using software as a service means that they can reduce their operational costs in a very large way. So when you're thinking about your total cost of ownership and what are the advantages of moving to the cloud, I've already mentioned the fact that you can reduce your infrastructure, but you need to look at other aspects of it as well. You end up decreasing your licensing costs on a lot of other third-party tools that you might have in your platform or in your environment today. So if today, for example, you are using an anti-spam solution, which I'm sure you are, an antivirus solution, or perhaps a DLP, data loss prevention tool. These are options and tools available already inherently within Office 365 and give you the opportunity to reduce your costs. Many of you out there, for example, use an archiving tool, whether that be something like a Semantic Enterprise Vault or other. And those can also be decommissioned depending on the plan that you decide to use in Office 365. You can get that included as part of your subscription, and once again, without any sort of infrastructure requirement. So Microsoft hosts Office 365 from their global data centers, and there are several of them spread across the world. Microsoft has invested billions of dollars in these data centers to be the most secure, the most reliable data centers in the world. These data centers have been chosen very, very strategically using a number of factors in terms of geopolitical stability, accessibility to power, to cooling, internet, redundant internet lines, etc. So they're available worldwide. For the people, for the organizations that are adopting Office 365 in this region, generally their tenants, their subscriptions are created through the European data centers. And a very important part to note about the subscriptions in Office 365 or the tenants that you have here is that your data is stored in the region where you have created your tenant and never flow out of it. So if it's created in Europe, as the majority of our customers are here, that data will not spill over to the American data centers, as an example, or Asia Pacific data centers either. So that we will touch upon a bit later on in a slide talking about security and data privacy, which is obviously a concern for most customers. But as you will see that Microsoft has made major investments to ensure that their customers' data is safe and secure. Some of the things that Microsoft has done to ensure and to give that comfort feeling to customers, apart from the large investment that they make in their data centers, is a financially backed service level agreement. So all of Office 365 has a 99.9% SLA, and if Microsoft does not meet that SLA, they will pay back credits. Okay, so that's very important for you to know. This is not just a service where you are left to the luck of the reliability. It is backed up financially. So what is Office 365's vision? Remember here, the main topic is productivity. They're trying to give the tools to organizations to become more productive. And that means, first of all, relying on an enterprise-grade cloud platform, which we have just talked about, providing you with essential productivity services that you would expect from this type of a software as a service, which would include email, or what we say messaging sometimes, the full synchronization of your email, contacts, calendars, tasks between your email and any of your mobile devices. The ability to choose any device that you wish to use, whether that be a smartphone, a tablet, a laptop, desktop, or even without any device at all. In other words, using a web browser to access your data and the services. And very important, over 95% of organizations out there are using the Office suite and have familiarity with how to use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. And that doesn't change for users. Obviously, there are minimum requirements for using Office 365. You will not be able to use much older versions of Office, those that are not currently being supported by Microsoft. But if any organization is currently using, Office 2010, Office 2013, or even Office 2007, they will feel comfortable continuing to use Office 365 with their existing tools. So you can break down this vision of the Office 365 productivity in terms of how we interact, our social connections. And I don't mean from like a Facebook point of view, I'm talking about from an enterprise point of view. The fact that we can use Office 365 also as a platform to bring out data that we are currently using in our organization, dashboards, having visual insights, being able to crunch through perhaps large financial sheets and be able to present it in a much easier to view format. And the fact that we have ways of protecting our data and how do we ensure that we manage the right permissions for our users so that we don't restrict them too much, but we ensure that our data is safe. And I'll give examples of each one of these. So let's talk about how we're able to basically use any device that we want from any location and connect between ourselves. So a very important factor and one of the driving objectives of Office 365 from the very beginning and in Microsoft's vision of productivity is that we should be able to use any device we want to get our work done. Whether that is, using a very popular platform like an iPad, for example, where we have a full Office suite available to us, where we can not only consume reading documents made in Office, but we can actually create them and save them directly back to the cloud and then open it from any device. We can do the same thing whether we're using a web browser, a laptop, a desktop, it doesn't matter. So the ability to choose any device we want and have that supported by Microsoft is very important. If we perhaps think about 3-4 years ago when cloud was beginning And Microsoft traditionally had always wanted to support only Microsoft or Windows devices first, and that has been one of the big changes you have seen at Microsoft, is the ability to support non-Windows devices. So from iOS, from Android, from standard web browsers, being able to use Firefox, Chrome, Safari, in addition to Internet Explorer. That is a big change. That it means that it has opened up the landscape to be much more multi-platform, and for users to have more choice in how they decide to interact with the service and how they get their job done. One of the big components that is now making very big gains in the enterprise market is, how do I make sure that not only am my employees collaborating and working well together, but how do I get them to get answers faster and also feel like they're part of the organization? And this is where enterprise social comes in. There are some organizations, and perhaps more of them in this part of this region of the world, which are concerned about this word social within the workplace. This is, nothing to be fearful of, and this is not a time waster like Facebook can be. This is actually being able to use tools so that employees can connect together, especially when they're in different remote offices, different branch offices. They need to find out, how to do something, for example, or they're perhaps part of a virtual team and they want to always be on top of the latest, or they need to get information quickly and they don't know who to go to get that information. So this is where enterprise social comes in, right? It allows you to be able to connect with other employees, work in virtual teams together. And it's not just about enterprise social from that point of view, but it's also about how do I communicate. And in that point of view, we can use a lot of unified communications tools like Link, which is what we're using today, right, for this webinar. So if you look at the actual enterprise social networking features, which are actually built in to Office 365, and you remember that I was saying that Microsoft is constantly coming out with improvements to the platform every 90 days. So Yammer is one of these acquisitions that Microsoft had made by purchasing the leading enterprise social networking platform in the market called Yammer. And Yammer was a standalone product before. It has been incorporated into Office 365, and previously it was only available to the highest subscription plans. Now this is available to all the enterprise plans. So even if you have one of the E1 plans, as you will see later on, this Yammer functionality is included at no extra charge. All right, so this is something that can be activated, and all of your employees can start to be able to connect with each other using a web browser interface that is actually, if you know how to use Facebook, you know how to use Yammer. And you will start to see how Yammer is becoming further integrated into Office 365 to the point where you can actually open up an Office document online, do co-authoring and co-editing, and you can also put comments about that document that you're working on in a Yammer feed, so that the next time that you go in to a shared document and you are looking to make some changes, you will immediately see on the side panel the opinions, the comments made by your coworkers to understand, what are the latest changes or questions or concerns that your coworkers might have. So Yammer is now an integrated piece of Office 365 and something that is a very important component looking forward. I'll assure you that enterprise social networking is going to be one of these revolutions for the enterprise workspace moving forward. The same way that today we are running our webinar, and if I'm doing this as a one-to-many, as we're doing it today, where we have over 20 people here currently on the conference, I can also use the same tool to communicate, whether it be internally to my coworkers, understand what is their presence. Are they available? Are they busy? Are they in a meeting? Are they on a call or on a conference call? I will see that immediately without having to initiate a contact with them. This allows me to better plan how I decide to communicate with them. If I see that my coworker Omar, for example, is in a conference call, I'm not going to bother making a phone call to him. I'm not going to try doing a video conference, but I might decide to send him an instant message if it's something important and I might need an answer now. So I can do that with Link, which is part of Office 365. And Link Online allows me to do these one-to-many webinar sessions as I'm doing today, or it allows me to do internal conference calls with my coworkers, or I can even invite people who are external to my organization. And these people who are external to the organization do not need to have a link client. They do not need to have an Office 365 subscription. I can invite them in and they will be able to join through a standard web interface, which will still give them all the full capabilities of instant messaging, of audio, of voice, of seeing desktop sharing and application sharing as we're doing now with the PowerPoint presentation. And as you can see, I have a lot of very powerful tools. So we started this conference by muting everybody. I can mute everybody. I can remove people. I can change somebody from being an attendee to a presenter. So if I now needed to leave this meeting and have somebody else take over for me, I can do that. I can put a lot of different restrictions, permissions, etc. on each conference. I can tailor them. I can upload content ahead of time if I want to have that available to the attendee so that they can download it. And I can record it just as I am doing today. So this recording allows me to then later on, I can video edit it if I wanted to. The actual recording will include everything. So we're talking about not just the audio or the video portion, but we are seeing, for example, if there's any instant messages that have been sent, that can be captured and can also be displayed. And then I can do whatever I want with that. So think about the possibilities of using unified communications tools like this. I am doing currently a one-to-many presentation. If this happened to be a monthly human resources presentation that is normally run for new employees, instead of having to further utilize human resources time moving into the future, this human resources department can actually record an onboarding session for new employees once. They can record it, post it onto their internal SharePoint or their internal intranet portal, and all new joiners to the organization can then go to that, view it, and have the exact same experience as somebody who has actually watched it live. So there you can see there are many different ways that you can use this tool and ways of actually being able to increase productivity for your employees by reducing the amount of time that they need to do repeating perhaps the same message over and over again. Also consider using this tool, executive management that have perhaps their leadership team meetings on a weekly or monthly basis. They can then record the meetings and keep it on their own restricted portal where if anybody has been traveling and were not able to actually attend that meeting, can then review it at their leisure. So as you can see, many things that we can do here. One of the big features that we are seeing in the marketplace for cloud is obviously cloud storage. When I am using a cloud service, I cannot be restricted to having my documents just on that device and try to synchronize it with my other devices. That obviously doesn't make sense. Cloud gives us a lot of advantages from a disaster recovery point of view. If I'm storing everything in my cloud space, whether that be my own private cloud area or whether that be a shared area where my colleagues and employees have access to, it means that I never have to worry about my device being stolen or my hard drive crashing. I can always go and pick up that document from whichever device I'm using or even just the web browser. It means that I can use any device, pick up a document, begin to view it or edit it, save it back, and then pick up where I left off from another device. And it also means that if I am working on a shared document, a document that let's say is in my sales department, and I am sharing this with my colleagues and my coworkers, and I have now gone to do a new contract, or I've gone to visit a customer, I've updated that document. As soon as I have an internet connection, that update is immediately available to the rest of the department, which makes it a lot more effective to collaborate. So in the cloud storage space within Office 365, we have something called OneDrive for Business. And some of you may have been familiar with this concept of SkyDrive. SkyDrive was the consumer version of the cloud storage space from Microsoft, and which was recently rebranded to OneDrive. So OneDrive is the personal space, and you have OneDrive for Business, which is included as part of Office 365. So the advantages of OneDrive for Business is that you get a very, very large 1 terabyte of cloud storage space per Office 365 subscriber. So you can imagine the benefit of all of your users now, instead of saving their files in the documents folder of their Windows machine, they now save it right in OneDrive for Business, which means that everything is automatically synchronized, is automatically backed up, and if that hard drive fails or the laptop is stolen, once they get a new device, they can just synchronize by logging in and everything comes down into their laptop. So the same way that if I use my username and password on a brand new machine, I can have all of my emails, contacts, and calendars synchronized down. I do the same. The same process works for all my content, all my files, my documents, so that I'm up and running immediately. No longer do I have to wait for an IT person to look for the latest backup, if that even existed. And as we know, the majority of organizations out there are not backing up actual employee machines. Right? The servers, yes, the file servers as well, but usually local employee machines are not being backed up, and that's a huge risk, right? Because one thing is to lose an actual physical asset like a laptop, for example, or a smartphone, which has a cost implicated to it. But the worst part is actually losing the organizational data, which, apart from being highly sensitive and can have confidential information, the problem with that is that it's more valuable, the actual data, than the device itself, right? And we don't want to have any downtime for our employees when they're working on documents. It means dollars on dirhams right away, because we're talking about sales contracts, we're talking about, let's say AutoCAD drawings, whatever it happens to be. You want to ensure that these documents are safe and secure. Now, one of the nice things about using the cloud storage space, whether it be OneDrive for Business or SharePoint Online, which is one of the collaboration tools within Office 365, is that you get a lot of built-in tools as well. So you have automatic version control, for example. So if you've got a team, the sales team, that are all working on the same document, if they're updating that document and we are finding that somebody has made a major error and they've been overwriting fields or rows in a spreadsheet, we can always go back to older versions of that file to recover it. And that doesn't require anything extra, no additional infrastructure. That's included as part of Office 365's features. Obviously, in this 1 hour session, it would be impossible to go through all the features and functionalities. That is not the intention of this webinar. And if any of these topics are interesting to you, we can definitely dive deeper into them, because there are so many features available in Office 365 that almost certainly you would never have time to use 100% of the features. The other nice thing is this real-time collaboration that I mentioned earlier. So I could be working on a document, let's say a Word document, and I might need to have the help of my coworkers. So I can invite 2 more people or 3 or however many I want to work on that document with me together. And in real time, I can actually see the updates taking place. All right. So it's a very, very nice way to ensure that I don't have this vicious cycle where one person makes an update to a document, emails it out to a list of people, somebody else makes a change, and while that person is making a change, another team member also makes a change. Those 2 versions then are emailed back, and you now need to consolidate all of the changes. This becomes a nightmare, as you've probably experienced in the past, and is not necessary anymore, because through real-time collaboration, you can all work together while you speak to each other, so you can actually collaborate in real time, understand if a change makes sense or not, and get your work done faster. The other thing is, when we're talking about security and data privacy, we want to have tools that will allow us to control how our data is consumed, how it's being presented, and what is coming out of our organization. And if we look at these tools, there's some very, very nice things available. So one thing is the actual protection of the data on devices that we're using. Now everyone is using a smartphone, very clearly, whether that happens to be a BlackBerry, iOS, Android, or Windows Phone device. All of these are being supported. And if you've got sensitive company information on those devices, it's the same thing as losing your laptop with all of that information, because generally you will have all of your emails, which will have sensitive data. You'll have your contacts, you'll have a list of all of the meetings you have gone to in your calendar, and you don't want that to be available to people who should not have access to that information. So what happens if an employee loses his smartphone, or somebody has their laptop stolen, even without involving IT, the employee themselves has the ability to log in to the Office 365 portal from any internet connected computer, log into their account, and actually remotely wipe their device, which is a very big plus. All right, and this is something that can be done either by IT or by the user themselves, but it allows you to set those types of controls. You can also set some other controls, like, for example, any device that I allow to connect to my data on Office 365 should have a 4-digit PIN, so I can enforce those types of rules. Now, in addition, you have things like data loss prevention or data leakage protection. Sometimes DLP is used in those two ways. Encryption and rights management capabilities within Office 365, which are very powerful. I've seen a lot of customers doing amazing things to try and stop their employees from potentially moving sensitive company data outside of the organization. And that includes things like locking out access to a lot of very popular websites. So that might be, for example, not allowing you access to Gmail or to Hotmail, or not even to cloud storage lockers such as Dropbox, for example, or any of these other tools. And of course, there's a major problem with that, and that is that the number of cloud-based email providers as well as storage lockers are constantly increasing. There are now thousands in the marketplace today. Therefore, an IT administrator would have a very tough time to actually lock out all of these services at any point in time. It doesn't make sense. It's an IT administration nightmare, and it is definitely no guarantee that the employee will not find a way to send it out if they wanted to, whether that is accidentally or because they have wanted to consciously. The other thing that we see also are organizations that are using Active Directory to push out group policies to restrict even the use of USB mass storage devices on their computers. Now, this is, I think, a very extreme measure that is used to try and stop employees from copying data off to an external hard drive or to a USB thumbstick. And this is unfortunately a vicious cycle to try and plug the holes that are the potential leakage points in the organization. The problem is that the number of holes is potentially unlimited, and this is not really the right way to go about it. That's why there are tools within Office 365 that you can enable, such as rights management, which means that the documents that you create, could be a Word, PowerPoint document, can be encrypted, and that document, no matter where it's being sent to, needs to have the user ensure that they are an approved consumer of that document, of that content, before they can see it. It's a transparent process, but if, for example, my colleague Omar has been working on a document and he has decided to store it on his OneDrive for Business storage space, and then he goes home and he wants to read that document from there, because Omar is an approved, and in fact he could be the creator or not the creator of that document, but if he can authenticate back to the rights management service into Office 365, it will allow him to read it. And that will be a completely transparent process. He does not have to enter additional passwords to view the document or anything, but he will automatically be able to view that. If, on the other hand, Omar decides to email the same document to a friend of his, even though Omar can see that document perfectly well, as soon as his friend tries to open it, if he is not a valid consumer member of this document, he will not be able to read it. It will be completely encrypted. So this is a major functionality which allows you to have the peace of mind that sensitive company information can have different policies applied to it. And we're not talking about just documents, it can be emails as well. So all of your email communication, if let's say it happens to be executive emails talking about the monthly executive meeting, for example, you can automatically set a policy on that says maybe do not forward or do not print. And that will automatically mean that those functionalities are not available. If the executive is looking at that email and tries to forward it, it will not be possible. Or if they try to print it, it will not be possible. So these types of built-in tools are very, very powerful and come at no additional cost within Office 365. So it's very important for you to know. Now, data loss prevention tools, which are also built into Office 365, allow you to do things like search for patterns within the body of an email message to ensure that you remain compliant, so that your enterprise, your organization are not doing something that could cause you legal issues down the road. So that could be, for example, sharing confidential customer information out to third parties that should not receive that information. That could be credit card information, it could be personal, home address information, etc. You can set up templates which look for certain patterns, and as soon as it finds that pattern, it will first of all advise while you're creating the email that this email looks like it contains information which go against company policy. And even if the customer, or I should say the employee, decides to move forward to try and send that email, if the DLP functionality detects that it has some policy breaking content in it, you can decide to either have that blocked altogether or to be sent first to his supervisor or manager for approval before it actually gets sent out. So as you can see, some very nice tools to allow you to continue to be compliant, to ensure that your sensitive company information stays safe. Now let's go to the next stage, which is, what if I am now in a legal situation where I need to find information regarding communication that has happened either within my company or from my company to an external company or person. And in Office 365, you've got some very nice EDiscovery tools and setting retention policies so that you can ensure that, first of all, you have a copy of every single communication that has ever taken place between your employees to anyone else. That's number one. Even if that communication, let's say an email, has been deleted or modified, or that user has already left the company, and then 5 years down the line you find you are having to find what has been committed or promised by that ex-employee to a third party, that can be discovered and found in its original state without any modification or deletion, and will cover not just emails but any communication that has taken place through instant messaging or anything that has been stored in collaboration sites like SharePoint as well. So using an EDiscovery tool, you as an IT administrator, for example, can delegate actually the web EDiscovery tool to a compliance officer, to the company lawyer, so that IT doesn't even have to get involved. And we hear a lot of feedback from customers that where the IT team does not like to get involved in legal issues, which is obviously understandable. You don't want to be the middleman in the search process and be exposed to what has happened perhaps to an ex-employee or to even an existing employee. So you can delegate this EDiscovery tool to that legal officer, that lawyer. They can do the searches themselves and get the results back. All right. So some of you, if you have attended the previous webinar session that my colleague Omar ran a couple of weeks ago, which had to do with security in Office 365 and data privacy, if you have not seen it, I invite you to go to our YouTube channel. You can view it there, and you will see all of the very stringent policies that Microsoft adheres to for their cloud services. And when I say cloud services, it's because it's not just Office 365, it's their other cloud services such as Azure that are also falling with the same compliancy. So this includes very, very strict standards such as FISMA, for example, which is the US financial industry standards for handling data, or for HIPAA, which is the healthcare industry. As you can imagine, there are some very strict rules to ensure that patient healthcare records are being kept safe, that, for example, financial data, credit card information is not being stored unprotected or unencrypted. And Microsoft conforms to a number of different standards, whether that be ISO 27001, which dictates how a data center has been built and operated and how the data is being handled, to also complying with US and the US-EU safe harbor agreements, the EU model clauses, which dictate how data is being handled. And in fact, Microsoft is the only provider in the industry that has receive the European Union's stamp of approval for data privacy. So this is a testament to Microsoft actually making enormous investments in that way and ensuring that your data is safe. It also is important to point out that Microsoft does not mine any of your data. Your data is yours. It is never analyzed, and that's in stark contrast to some other services which do actually readily admit that they are searching and analyzing your data so that they can index it, use it for advertising data, for advertising products. That does not happen with Microsoft. Microsoft has got some very, very clear descriptions of how their service is used, and you can actually go to Microsoft's Trust Center, look that up by doing a search on the internet, Microsoft Trust Center, and you can read up on all of the different policies and compliance standards that Microsoft adheres to for their cloud services. So here is a summary of all of the Office 365 plans available. There are actually a few more in terms of standalone plans as well, but the most common ones are the first three columns that you can see there, which are what are called the E plans. There's the E1, the E3, and the E4 plan, and all of these include Exchange, SharePoint, and Lync, which means that you have Microsoft's top 3 productivity tools for your organization to really take that leap in productivity. It means that you get the best-in-class messaging platform, which allows you to have very, very sophisticated email features, calendaring. I can share my calendars. I can have a personal assistant have delegated authority to my calendar, to my mailbox as well. And it means that if I'm an employee and I'm going to go on a leave for 2 weeks, I can delegate my mailbox or my calendar to someone else so that somebody else can continue to respond to emails that I receive, for example. It also means that all of my data from an email context calendar perspective will automatically be synchronized to all of my mobile devices. The number of times we hear from customers that are running an email platform where they cannot use their mobile device to send email, or if they are, they do not have it in synchronization, which means that if they send an email from their mobile device and then sit down later on at their computer, they will never see that sent email in their email client. And of course, that's obviously not the way we want to work. We want to be able to see everything, all the email communications that we have sent or received should be available from any location. And then you also get the Lync Online tool. So Lync, which is the tool we're using for the webinar today, which will allow you to have these rich communications experiences, is part of the Office 365 package in all of these e-plans. And all of them give you a very, very large, generous 50 gigabyte mailbox. This means that for really most organizations, 50 gigabytes is more than enough for any user's email requirements. And if you adopt the E3 or E4 plan, on top of having 50 gigabytes of space in your primary mailbox, you also get unlimited archiving. So that essentially means that your email is unlimited. You can store emails from years and years without any worry that you're ever going to run out of space. So as you can imagine, from an IT administration point of view, that is a huge benefit, not always having to worry about increasing the storage space of your on-premise email platform. All of that worry goes away, and no more investment in additional storage space for your email platform. All of these also include the 1 terabyte of OneDrive for Business storage space per user. So it's 1 terabyte of space per subscriber where they can store all of their personal files, which means that, like I mentioned before, your documents file folder on your Windows machine should be empty. And you simply have to tell your users, instead of saving it in the documents folder, you now save it in your OneDrive for Business. And by doing that one simple change means that your users will have access to their data from any location and any device, and that data is constantly backed up automatically. If you go for the E3 or E4 plan, that's where you get the legal hold functionality, where you can retain copies of emails from the very moment that you have the service forever, and you can recover all the original emails that have ever been sent, even if they've been modified or deleted. So you get the legal hold, the EDiscovery, and the DLP functionality in the E3, E4 plan. Rights management is included at no extra charge as well in the E3, E4 plan. And very importantly, and for a lot of you out there who are interested in running the latest version of Office Professional Plus, the entire Office Professional Plus package, which is the highest package, which includes Word, Excel, PowerPoint, InfoPath, Access, Link, Microsoft Publisher. All of these applications are included in Office Professional Plus and included as part of a subscription, which means that you not only have the right to use this latest version and download it to your machine, but you can actually install it on up to 5 PCs or laptops and 5 mobile devices as well. So this is an incredibly generous licensing mechanism so that you can go home, you can install the latest version of Office on all of your Windows or Mac computers at home, and you can use it on all your mobile devices. So if you're running your iPad, you're running an Android phone, whatever it is, you can load up Office for these devices and you are properly licensed. Okay, very, very important. It also means that when Microsoft comes out with the new version of Office in the future, you automatically have the rights to download that as well. Now, for those of you who have any concerns that you have, let's say, maybe people in your finance department that have created some complex macros in an earlier version of Excel, and you're concerned about installing a new version of Office that might break these macros, don't be concerned. The Office 2013 package allows it to be installed side by side with older versions of Office without having to uninstall or delete or modify the older version at all. And this allows you to ensure that anything that has been created custom, whether it be macros or anything else, can be tested in the newer version first to ensure that it's compatible. And if it's not and you need to make changes, you can still run the older version of Office in the meantime. Okay, so very important. It also means that, if you are an Office 365 subscriber and you need to now install the latest version of Office in a new computer, whether that be in the workplace or at home, you can do that just by logging into the portal, the Office 365 portal, and it will start streaming the installation of Office right over the internet. You do not require any media, no DVDs, and no software keys either, because it's all linked to your Office 365 subscription. So therefore, just with your username and password, you will automatically get access to that software digitally, and it will be streamed to your computer. What do I mean by streamed? It means that you do not have to wait for a full installation to take place, which generally involves a download, which might take an hour for you to download these multiple gigabyte installation packages and then wait for the installation to happen. It will download a very, very quick installation header. It will start streaming Office, and in less than 1 minute, you will be up and running using Office while the rest of the package is being installed in the background. So very nice feature. For those of you out there who are interested also in using Link for enterprise voice, in other words, the ability to make and receive telephone calls, Office 365 E4 subscription is the same as E3, but includes the rights for enterprise voice. Now this is the only feature that will require you to have some on-premise infrastructure to have this work, but this plan will cover your users from the licensing costs. It'll take that into account. Now, the nice thing is that you can mix and match the different plans together. So you profile your users in your organization. If you find that your upper management need to have the full features, you can give them the E3 or E4 plans. Perhaps more the normal knowledge workers who are in the different departments are fine with E1 package. And if you have perhaps remote workers or workers who are not always at their desk and maybe they just need an email box, you can also give them just an Exchange Online plan. That's also possible to do as well. Now, there is actually some updates as well that has been recently announced by Microsoft. So if you're a smaller customer, you perhaps are not, hundreds or thousands of employees, and you're looking to get onto Office 365, Microsoft has very recently announced a change which will come into effect in a month's time, starting October 1st, which are some new plans for the SMB space, the small medium business space, which will replace the older plans. These new plans are a lot easier to understand, as well as being more price competitive. So it's never been a better time to get into Office 365. You now have a business plan, you have a business essentials plan, and a business premium. You can see the slide in front of you with the price per user per month for these services. And just as a very quick summary on how this works is that if you're looking for just a subscription plan to the latest version of Office, this is the version of Office that you install on your computer, and you're not interested in having the back-end server capabilities of email, contacts, calendar, the collaboration portal with SharePoint, or the unified communications using Link, you can do that for $8.25 per user per month. Okay, so instead of paying the hundreds of dollars for the package that you would install, you can do this as a subscription, and it also gives you 1 terabyte of space, cloud space per user, so that when they're using the Office package, they can save all of their documents securely into the cloud, which means it's also accessible from any location. It also will give you the service level agreement to ensure that those documents in the cloud are available, minimum 99.9%, and you get Microsoft support on that. Now, if conversely you have already a recent version of Office, maybe 2010, or you already have the 2013 version, but what you're looking for is to have the enterprise grade server functionality on the back end. In other words, you want to have Exchange, you want to have SharePoint, you want to have Link, then you can go just for the Business Essentials plan, which gives you that capability to connect your Office software that you already have to the back end, and it's $5 per user per month. Now, if you want to have the full package, in other words, I want to have the latest version of the Office software, plus I want to have all of the great enterprise productivity server tools in the back end, that's your business premium, which is $12.50. And all of these plans have a very hard limit of 300 seats, which means that really, if your organization today is up to 250 users, this is something for you to consider. If you're already getting close to 300, or obviously if you're above 300, I would not go for these plans, because you will not be able to have more than 300 maximum subscribers on these plans. You will have a hard limit. However, the enterprise plans continue, which I had just covered, the E1, the E3, E4, those continue to exist as they have existed for the last few years. If you have any questions about these plans, whether it be the SMB plans or the enterprise plans, please let us know. We'd be more than happy to clarify any of your questions. So we often get questions from customers, so what else can I do with Office 365? When customers are moving to the cloud, some of them want to start out with a more out-of-the-box approach. I want to migrate all of my existing emails, contacts, calendars to Office 365. I'll use SharePoint out of the box. I'll use Link out of the box, but what else can I do with Office 365? So there's a lot of different things you can do. Obviously, SharePoint itself is a platform which allows you to do, on top of just collaboration, a lot of different business process automation type of activities. So I might want to implement workflows so that if I have, for example, a customer proposal that requires getting the approval of my manager, well, I can build that into a process on SharePoint, so that once I upload my document to the SharePoint intranet, it automatically will kick off a workflow that will request approval from my manager. Once my manager approves, I will get a notification back saying it's been approved. It can be sent to the customer. This can also be used for a lot of other things, such as automating forms. So if you have the issue with timesheets with employees, or you need to automate leave through HR, for example, or vacation days, etc., you can do all of this using SharePoint. We also offer a number of pre-packaged applications which are very, very cost effective, which run on SharePoint, which will allow you to do a lot of these functionalities. So instead of having to develop it yourself or have us develop it, we do have pre-packaged applications which will give you functionalities such as intranet, such as CRM, such as IT support, or even things like such as project planning. All of these are available as modules that we can implement for you on top of SharePoint Online. If you're interested in more information on that, we'd be happy to share that with you. Another common question that we get from customers is, I want to make sure that the branding of my organization is consistent when we send out communications, whether it be internally or externally. And that's where a centralized signature management solution comes into play. And we can provide you with a solution that does that. A lot of these functionalities are third party and a lot of them are built in. But it doesn't matter. The issue here is that you can implement these in Office 365 and you can have a lot of very intelligent and sophisticated control over your signatures. In other words, how do I send out during Ramadan automatically that all employees sending an email automatically have Ramadan Kareem in their email footer, in the email signature? You can do that automatically. Rights management, as I said, is an option that you can activate within Office 365, which comes with a number of out-of-the-box policies, and that can be customized, or you can create new policies as well. So that's available. And then from an encryption point of view, we've had customers that say, we're very concerned about very sensitive information that we perhaps share with our banks, transactions that we make. We want to ensure that all email communications that are sent to our trusted partners are encrypted. And you can do things like force encryption using forced TLS to these partners that you decide to do. Okay. Now I see a question there from Tushar in terms of how to do MDM with Office 365. I mentioned very briefly in a previous slide that there are some basic mobile device management controls built into Office 365. The ability to register your mobile phone or smart device, and that you can wipe out that sensitive corporate data from that device if that device, let's say, is lost or stolen, or if the IT administrator needs to wipe that device because maybe that employee is no longer an employee of their organization. However, if you want to have much more control over the mobile device management, there actually is another Microsoft service called Windows Intune, which will allow you to do that. There's another question here I see from Mohammed Musa. Thank you, Mohammed, about what products do you have for centralized signature management. So the one that we generally recommend to our customers is Exclaimer. It's a very good product. Very flexible, allows you to create multiple templates. It integrates into your Active Directory so that you can actually auto-populate things like the employee's name, title, phone number, and you can even create rules that say if there is no mobile phone number in the Active Directory, then I don't want that field to show up, and instead of having their mobile and then blank, it won't even show mobile. And you can do this by user or by department. So it allows you, in fact, some of our customers are holding companies, they're groups of companies, and they have a single Office 365 tenant. This is an excellent way to be able to have different signatures coming out from the users, even though they're all in the same Office 365 tenant, but showing that they're from different companies based on their Active Directory entries. Okay, hopefully that has answered your question, Mohammed. And Tushar, if you want to get more information about Windows Intune, we can definitely set that up for you, or we will have a future session actually on Windows Intune, and in fact a new suite that Microsoft has come out just recently called Enterprise Mobility Suite, which is a very exciting offering which combines Windows Intune with Rights Management Service as well as Azure Active Directory, so that you have very nice Active Directory features in the cloud completely. All right. Tushar, in terms of MDM, if you want, I can answer those questions for you offline. I want to continue focusing on Office 365 because pushing software upgrades over the cloud is definitely a feature of Windows Intune, but not of Office 365. So one of the questions that we commonly get from our customers is, I do have an Active Directory today. How do I ensure that the user experience for my customers is an optimal experience? I don't want to have to make them jump through hoops to remember another set of credentials just for Office 365. They come in every morning to their domain joined workstation, they type in their username and password, and they have access to all of our resources on the network. So I want the same thing to happen to Office 365, and that is no problem whatsoever. So I'm going to do a very quick summary on this one slide about the different options you have for Office 365 identity. The first option, the one on the left in blue, is simply a cloud identity. This works fine for smaller organizations if you do not have Active Directory. It essentially means that you have a cloud identity, in other words, a username and password, which is stored only on Office 365. And by having that, you can therefore just sign in with that account. You don't have to worry about having to synchronize with any other on-premise server, and your users will get access from anywhere. However, if you do have an Active Directory, you have two options. If you want to ensure that your users can continue to use their existing username and password, you have either a synchronized identity, which essentially takes a copy of your username and password and other objects from the Active Directory. They get synchronized up to Office 365. And then that provides the user with the same user experience as single sign-on, even though it really is not true single sign-on. The upside to this is it only requires one server. It can be physical or virtual, on-premise, and it is the server that it takes into consideration having to synchronize all the information up to Office 365. Now, if you're only using Office 365 as your cloud software as a service, then that's fine. It's a great functionality to enable, and will give you that single sign-on like functionality. However, if you do have other applications that you have in the cloud, let's say you're using a Salesforce.com or some other third-party applications, or even Microsoft Cloud applications, and you want to have a federated identity. In other words, you're using your Active Directory to manage all of your user identities, and if you make a password change, you want to ensure that that password, new password, is valid for all of the federated applications. Then you can also roll out the third option, which is the federated identity, using Active Directory Federation services. Now, that does require more investment when it comes to servers, and this can be done on-premise with either physical or virtual servers. So if you already have virtual capability, great, but if not, you can do it directly on Azure as well. So you do not have to make any investments in additional server storage, Windows Server licenses. That can be done completely in Azure as well. And this is obviously the most complete single sign-on feature. And it also gives you some very nice capabilities if you want to customize your login portal for your employees, so that you have your company logo, your branding. You can have access to help desk directly from the Office 365 login page. That you can do by using this federated approach. Another nice feature, which is optional, that you can do with the federated approach, is you can have user self-service password resets. Okay, this is a very, very nice feature which can help you really significantly decrease the number of calls to your help desk, because if a user ends up forgetting their password and needs to have it reset, they can do it themselves. Okay, they go through an enrollment process of having their mobile phone registered and verified, so that just like with other systems that you're used to using on consumer services, then when there is a request for a password reset, that takes place directly through the portal to your end user without any intervention from IT or help desk. All right, and one of the other things, we get a lot of questions regarding the security and data privacy. One very nice feature that's included at no extra charge within Office 365 is something called multi-factor authentication. This, if you turn this on, you can have users, and you can turn it on not for all users, you can turn it on just for individual users. If you find that there are some users perhaps who are, because they're constantly traveling and maybe they have sensitive data, you can enable multi-factor authentication, which means that when they log into Office 365, they require a second factor for authentication. So just like other two-factor authentication systems, this is Microsoft's built-in multi-factor authentication platform, which will either make a phone call to that employee that's trying to log in, or it'll send them a text message, or even if they do not have mobile coverage, they can still use a free application on their mobile device to generate a one-time password to actually log in to the service. So this is an additional layer of security that can be enabled if that's important to your organization. All right, this is the end of the presentation for today. We have gone approximately 1 hour, and I hope it was useful to you. This will be posted on our YouTube channel, and please go to our LiveRoute webpage for future webinar sessions where we will discuss other solutions such as Azure, for example, and the different things you can do with Azure, as well as new offerings from Microsoft such as Enterprise Mobility Suite, which are going to be incredibly valuable solutions for you to keep your data safe, to have single identity models, and to be able to do things like mobile device management, which has been brought up here. Okay, if you have any questions now, please, I would be happy to answer any of that now, or we can always take it offline as well. So I'll wait for a couple of minutes if there's any questions before closing this conference. Hi Manoj, thank you for your question. So the question that you are posing regarding using Office 365 and ISO 27001 compliant does not mean that you would be compliant. What it is referring to is that the service that you are using conforms to ISO 27001 standards, which means that you can be sure that the way that their data centers have been built and are run and operated conform to the standard and are being audited on a continual basis. Okay, so that you know that they're following industry standard rules for data storage and handling. Manoj, I see your other question about the difference between Yammer and Link. So the easiest way to answer this is consider Yammer to be a non-real-time collaboration tool. When I say non-real-time, I mean that just the same way that on consumer social networks such as Facebook, you might post something, information, a question or whatnot, and then your colleagues will respond to it on that social networking platform. So Yammer is a great way to share files, ask questions, be part of a project team, and be able to collaborate that way. Whereas Link is a real-time tool, just like we're using today for this webinar, where I can actually speak to somebody, I can hold a video conference, I can share my screen, I can even take control of somebody else's computer as if I was using like a team viewer session, so that I can either do, show a user how to do something, or I can actually even collaborate with them, let's say on an Excel spreadsheet. I can even do that by taking control of their desktop. I hope that answers your question. But you will see, by the way, that Omar has put a number of polls there, and I'll please ask you to answer these polls, which will allow you to understand better the service. We'll give you 30 more seconds on this poll before we move on to the next question. Okay, we're about to move on to the next question. So the correct answer here is both E3 and E4. Okay, the E3 and E4 plan allow you to have Office Professional Plus for up to 5 computers and up to 5 mobile devices simultaneously. Okay, we'll move to the next poll. And we'll give you another 30 seconds to answer this before we talk about the answer. Okay, and the correct answer for this is that your primary mailbox is a 50 gigabyte mailbox. And to remind you that if you go for either the E3 or the E4 plan, in addition to the 50 gigabyte, you get unlimited archiving. So we'll move on to the last poll here, the last question. And these are all intended to ensure that you are up to speed on the information that we've presented. What's Microsoft's approach to security in Office 365? Great. And obviously the correct answer for this, congratulations to all of you for the correct answer, which is all of the above. Microsoft's approach to security is definitely multifaceted, and it takes into account protecting your data, ensuring compliance, and ensuring your brand reputation. So thank you for joining us today. Very much appreciate your attendance. And if you want to review this presentation, you can see our YouTube video that will be posted very shortly on our YouTube channel. Please stay current with the webinar sessions that we are providing through LiveRoute. You can come to our website, www.liveroute.net, to keep up to date, not just on our webinar sessions, but you can find always the latest up-to-date information for Office 365 and other Microsoft Cloud solutions. You can also follow us on Twitter as well. All right. Thank you very much, and we'll stop recording this presentation now.